Hi everyone, Diana Rankin here with your weekly psychic soul messages and a prediction or two. We have some of your questions. I have 3 questions this week, but I think we're only going to get to one of them. So I'm going to put 2 of them off until next week because the first one's kind of long. So the 2 I'm going to answer next week. I'm going to answer them from Phillip next week, but I'll just give you my quick take on them this week. And oh, by the way, before I forget, this is video number 37 in 2019. So it's the 37th week of this year, and it's for September 15th to the 21st. 2 of the questions that we're going to look at next week. One is one of you. Let me try this again. You did, and let me explain what we're doing also. In addition to a few predictions this week, I've asked those of you who are viewing, if you have a general question, I will be happy to ask Phillip, my spirit guide, to answer that question for us. And I do ask, don't make it a really personal question, but have it be more general or more universal, I should say, so all of the viewers can benefit from it. I have been thinking about doing a Facebook Live also, and on that I will answer specific personal questions. It's not set up yet. I haven't learned how to use Facebook Live yet. I just haven't taken the time. So that's coming up. With the YouTube, though, because you can't really ask questions while we're discussing this, if you want personal questions answered, my phone number is below, my website information is below. Just contact me and we will set up a date for a session for you. And the cost and how do we do that and all that is on the website. But the 2 questions that I'm going to postpone for Phillip answering until next week. One is a viewer asked, I'm a late owl, and will I really wake up at 4 or 4:30 in the morning? Wouldn't 6 o'clock be better for me? And to answer that, I'm going to tell you a quick story here, but I'm also going to tell you that wherever I am in the world, even though there's this major time change, and that's what I want to ask Phillip about, I will wake up around 4:30 if there's something Phillip needs to tell me. So I don't know how that works. We're going to look at that next week. But to tell you a quick story, this week, one of the women in my Awakening to Your Deeper Intuition workshop, this goes back a few years, but she said she was sure she wouldn't wake up at 4 or 4:30 in the morning. She was exhausted from work that week, and she brought work along that she had to do when she got back to her room in the hotel. And she was up till like 2 in the morning working, and she said sure enough she woke up at 4 in the morning anyway, and there was the spirit guide that she was getting to meet. So we'll look at what Phillip has to say about that, because I have no idea how that works. I do know that traditionally the veil between the worlds is the thinnest at that hour, but how that works in different time zones we'll find out next week. Also, another question came up about dark spirits, not just our shadow self, but dark spirits. You know, and we'll talk about to Phillip about that next week, but what I want to say is I don't get into that myself. When someone calls and tells me they're being possessed, I usually refer them to another woman who's very good with working with that, another healer. And the reason I don't get into it, it just doesn't have an interest for me. It's not to say we shouldn't work with our shadow self. We absolutely sure. But when we talk about dark entities in spirit world, I don't see it as an entity as much as just thoughts. The energy has come together and created a form. And so for me, it's just get rid of that form. It's not a being that was evil in this world. So there's a little bit difference, and there are those who do work with spirits of a darker nature. So those are our questions Philip's going to answer next week. This week, we will, of course, get a message from Philip. This is our Oracle book, and each page has a different message. And yes, all of my books that are still in print, and I have 4 still in print, they are available on Amazon.com. And so we'll get a message in a little bit from Philip. I'm actually going to read from one of my other books today. It's called The Found Child, and it's about a woman who has a motorcycle spill, and then she finds a child at the end of her country lane. And we're going to read a little bit about that because that has to do with our question of the week. And of course, we're going to read when we asked Philip the question, what he told us, and we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to say, I know so many of us, oh gosh, we're so weary, we're so tired. It's getting tough. It's not going to get easier for a while. I would love to tell you it is, but I want to say it. The Hopi calls this the end times, and it's not only the Hopi prophecy. There are other ancient prophecies that call these the end times. And what's happening is it's almost as though the world is splitting in some ways. Energetically, we're really butting heads with the old and the new. And so it is of greater importance that you stay in love. And, you know, I'm not talking about romantic love here. I'm talking about deep love. I have seen so many acts of love with the horrific hurricane that hit the Bahamas and part of the east coast of the U.S. A cruise line, Carnival Cruise Line, sent a huge ship down with supplies and places people can stay on the ship for a while. A university, Hampton, I believe, Hampton University, will allow students from the Bahamas to come to the university free for a semester while their homes are being rebuilt. All kinds of wonderful, wonderful acts of love. So let's remember, let's stay with the acts of love. That's not to say be blind to what's going on. No, we must be blind. We must open our eyes to what's going on and recognize there are horrific things taking place in the U.S. and around the world, and we want to work to correct those. But we also have to applaud these acts of love and create them in our lives and create them for the world, because we're not in an easy energy. And when I say the world is splitting, it's like those of us who choose to live in love, that world will become greater, and those who are choosing to live in fear and hate, and that world, it's almost like 2 different worlds will be side by side. The question for this week, and I kind of condensed it. So thank you, by the way, for your questions. Thank you for being here this week. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for helping me spread the word about what love truly is. It's an action verb. So the first question is, how can we recognize a true master, as opposed to someone who only thinks they are, or simply says they are, or they're just out to make a buck? And then the person goes on and says, does it matter, or is all that matters whether someone is helpful? Philip's answer: as the student progresses, the attraction to a teacher of the higher orders will be sought out. And notice he said higher orders with an S. This is not only at the human level that the decisions are made. The spiritual level influences the human's decision, as well as the mindset of the human. Your teachers, who may or may not be masters, are those who are in your vibrational energy. There are those who say, beware of those who claim to be masters, for they are not. We say, if you are drawn to them, search for the reason, for there is something here for you. It may be simply to learn discernment. It may be to learn of your own wisdom. It may be to learn the value of choice and to choose wisely. There are those who are not yet ready to be trusted with the deeper secrets of the universe, so they will seek out teachers who do not yet know the secrets. There are those who are ready to become masters to help heal and lead your world. These are the ones who seek out the teachers of a higher order. I'm going to repeat that. There are those who are ready to become masters to help heal and lead your world. These are the ones who seek out the teachers of a higher order. While we converse, you have felt drawn to the book. It is suggested you read the passage that comes to mind. And so that's what I'm going to do for you right now, is read a passage, because while Philip was talking, I kept thinking of one of my books, The Found Child. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the story of a woman who finds a very strange little boy at the end of her lane. And they go through time out of time. They go through life before we come into body, and life, what happens when we die, what happens when we come back into this plane. And it is, it's fiction. Maybe. So, here we are with our main character. And she talks about a blinding light forced me to momentarily shield my eyes. When I removed my arms from across my eyes, Jesus stood in front of me. He was a much smaller man than I had thought him to be, only a few inches taller than me. His skin was darkened, and his brown hair lightened from the sun. His eyes were a deep brown and intense, yet soft. His nose was large and had an ever so slight bump in the center. It was not a pristine nose the Italian painters would later depict, but a proud, strong nose of a real man. His hands, too, were strong, a carpenter's hands, sturdy hands that could grasp a child or a lamb, or even an adult, and take from them that which kept them from their own perfect health or their life. Oh, I wanted to kneel and kiss the hem of his robe, but I knew that was not what I was to do. I was to stand in front of him, looking directly into his eyes and speak, so I did. Master Jesus, it is said that you could have walked away from the Garden of Gethsemane, walked down the other side of the mount, away from the soldiers. If this is true, why did you stay? My question caught me quite off guard. It was not what I thought I would be asking, but his answer caught me even more off guard. It certainly was not what I was expecting. Why did you ride the motorcycle? Did you not know they are dangerous? Did you not know what was coming? I forgot I was engaged in conversation with a great master, with Jesus, the Son of God, according to the entire Christian world. I was talking to a man, an interesting man, who in every way treated me as an equal. I answered as one. Well, there were signs, I suppose, I said. I didn't like that road, didn't want to go that way, but it was silly to go any other direction. And 2 days before I dropped the bike, I put the kickstand down in gravel and it sank into the earth, the ground being too soft beneath the gravel. I guess the signs were there. You chose not to heed them. I chose to not heed them, I repeated. I don't know why. Jesus' eyes smiled at me. I had to take that ride, I said. And in speaking, I understood, just as you had to wait for the soldiers. Is it what your soul agreed to, as did mine? He said. The signs were there to give you a chance to change your mind. Earth is a place of free will. I started to protest that he was a master, not me, and then I clearly heard Philip remind me it is only ego that tells us we are not enough. I'm going to repeat that. Philip reminded me it is only ego that tells us we are not enough. I took a deep breath and spoke clearly. Jesus, I understand why you did not leave the garden now. Why would you let the soldiers take you when there were those who would have kept you safe? Your death started Christianity, a whole new religion, and spread around the world. Yes, that, he said, rather bemused. That was not my intention. Paul had more to do with that than I. Who knows what others will make of our lives? I am a teacher. This too is what you are. There's a big difference, I hastened to add, and then caught my breath. Is there? He countered. It is only a matter of degrees. On earth, the people require your masters to have lived long ago and accomplished much. But I tell you, there are masters walking among you today in every country of the world. There have always been masters walking among the people throughout the ages. This you must know and respect. You must also accept and respect the masters who walk among the peoples of the world today. These are the teachers, the philosophers, the seers, the healers, the mothers and fathers, the children, the ones who understand the meaning of life and give themselves to the service of life. Phillip is a master, I said in awe. Yes, Phillip is a master. Not all masters are to start a new religion, Jesus said, and I heard the wryness in his voice and knew that he knew how to laugh and poke fun at himself. I felt such joy being in his presence, such light-heartedness. I felt giddy. I'm not a Christian, I said to Jesus. Neither am I, he said. On earth, I was a Galilean Jew. Now they claim I am a master. He sighed a great weight of a sigh, and then he smiled and the sun radiated. This I tell you, he began. Masters are the people who walk among you, who have reached a higher level of understanding. That is all. How do we recognize the masters among us, I asked. How do we tell the true masters from those who claim they are? Those who call themselves masters are not, Jesus said, nor do masters shy from their greatness. To do either is spoken from the ego, not from the truth of spirit. When I walked the earth, I never claimed to be a master. Some called me a prophet. Others called me the Messiah, the Son of God. Never once did I lay claim to any of these titles. They were given to me by others. For ever so slight a second, sadness passed over his face, and I saw the burden that comes from others labeling us, and I understood that Jesus had walked his soul's path much like each of us do. He was a teacher, a leader. That was his journey. He spoke then, his voice kind. Each person has a different life journey. None other can take it for you. Every human being is irreplaceable. Everyone's journey affects the lives of all who came before and all who come after. Like the pebble in the water, I whispered almost to myself. Jesus smiled. Ripples go out from the pebbles thrown into the water, and we know not to whom those ripples flow over or how they affect those who experience our ripples. Wow, that makes me really want to be careful about what I say and do. For a moment, I let it all sink in, and then I added, and even what I think. Jesus said not a word, yet I felt his smile penetrate deep into my heart. I closed my eyes and brought my hands into prayer mode at my heart in deep gratitude for this encounter. Tears wet my eyes as I heard Jesus speak and felt the truth of my responsibility to all life. Follow your path in love and with knowledge, and it will take you wherever you need to go, Jesus said. I felt the ripple effect of Jesus' life touch my life and knew the ripple effect of my life would not start a religion, but it might help ease the heart of another human being or save the life of an animal. And you know who's sound asleep over here at my feet. I was humbled and awed by the greatness of being human. I closed my eyes for just a moment, and when I opened them, Jesus was gone. He was again part of the swirling shots of colorful lights that whisked and whirled around. For a moment, I stood alone watching. For a moment, I stood alone among the swirling lights. I understand why people thought Jesus was the Son of God, I said, and I'm speaking to Philip here. There are many on earth who still believe Jesus is the Son of God, Philip said as he materialized before me. Jesus is the Son of God. So are you. We all are. What is missing is the accepting of responsibility for our own relationship as a child of God. I hope that answered the question about masters, would-be masters, fake masters. Let's get a message from Philip, shall we? Think left or right. And yes, The Found Child, again, is available on Amazon.com. And in that particular, that's part of one chapter. And in that particular chapter, the main character does speak to other masters, such as Kuan Yin and a couple of others. And that is in the chapter called Masters. Let's get our message. Think left page, right page, and we just flip through, and when we flip through, we stop. I'm thinking right page, but I will also tell you what's on the left page. But on the right page, it says, I would think after all these years, I would stop being awed, astounded, how well the message that we come to fits our message of the week. And here it is. From each person you meet, you have something to give and something to receive. From each person you meet, you have something to give and something to receive. And I'm going to add whether they call themselves a master or not. And believe me, I don't. I know how much I don't know. The more I learn, I know so little. So remember, from each person you meet, you have something to give and something to receive. And then on the left side, it says, beauty is all around you. To see it, look. Beauty is all around you. To see it, look. My friends, over the next week or so, over the next several months actually, but this week, practice looking at beauty. And with everyone you meet, before you get angry, before you think, how can they think that? How can they be like that? Stop and ask yourself, what is this about? What am I to gain here? What can I learn about me? I love you, my friends. Thank you so much for coming. Again, if you want a private consultation, my number's right below. Have a marvelous week. Daisy just looked up and said hello. The kitties are all out there sleeping. I am so grateful for your coming every week, and I'm so grateful for your comments. You keep me going, because this is not easy for me to do, and I would not do it if it weren't for you. And for those of you who are interested, keep in touch. Keep checking on my website what areas I'm in, because anything that is open to the public, I do publish on the website. You're welcome to come to any of the speaking engagements I do. Thank you. I love you, my friends. Thank you so much for loving us. Until next week.